All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Electric Vehicle Weekly. This show, we basically just talk about what kind of electrical vehicle things have happened through the last week, some updates on some stuff. Today, we are going to talk about GM and their potential buyout of Buick dealerships. We're also going to talk about some misconceptions of electric vehicles. Then we'll move on, and we've got a little bit to do with um, what do we have else? We have the Acura. Acura has released a new EV. It was originally a concept. They've actually named that now. We're going to talk about Sono Motors, the Sono Scion solar car. And then we're also going to talk about CATL or CATL battery company out of China. So as we get started on that, I just want to let everyone know that all of the super chats will be first dibs. I will answer those immediately. We'll try to keep all the questions pertaining to the information that we're talking about at the moment. I will answer any of those questions, but if it's kind of off topic, I will wait until after that or at the end after we go through all these news briefs, and then we'll do a full open chat at the end, and I'll go back and start answering questions from there. But feel free to ask questions, and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. So, if you are new to OSR Garage, this is what we do. We give automotive content and reviews. You subscribe to the channel or go check out some of the videos and see if you like them. If you like them, great. Subscribe. Make sure you click like on the ones that you do like. We did just open up memberships, and so we have 3 levels of memberships right now that are. I'll bring those up so you can kind of see those real quick, and we'll get all this out of the way, and then we'll get started in on the news. All right. So what we have are the 3 memberships. The important is a $3 membership, kind of gives you some loyalty badges, some emojis. You get a little shout out and a few little items there. And then we move on to the Insider, is at $6.99, and you get a few extra perks on top of that. You get videos before everyone else. We have a members-only chat, a few things there, and the 3rd level is just about the same. You guys will get information of what OSR Garage is doing in the next few weeks, what's going to be coming up, what videos might be coming, and then you also will get up to $25 in the merchandise store to get you a OSR Garage t-shirt, coffee cup, something like that. All right, so we will go back and we will get started. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is GM. Now, GM is offering Buick dealerships a chance to let GM buy them out of their dealership. So what's happened here is GM is moving to fully electric, and they're wanting to get the dealerships switched over to EVs as soon as possible. Now, there is a major cost involved in getting these dealerships up to par with EVs. And so GM has basically told them, hey, if you guys don't want to upgrade, then we will buy you out. Your other option is to spend the money and upgrade your system. So what is going on is GM is offering to buy out the U.S. Buick dealers that don't want to make the investments, and they want it all done by 2030. Now, this is the latest efforts by GM to accelerate the company's EV plans and to transform its sales network. And we've seen Ford already start working their way towards that. Now, what happened before was the company in 2020 already offered Cadillac dealerships the exact same thing. And back then, 320 of the 880 Cadillac dealerships actually accepted the buyout. And the buyouts were from anywhere approximately $200,000, or sorry, 320 of the 880 actually accepted the offer, which is what I've said, and then rather spend the $200,000 it costs to upgrade their dealership to accept EVs. Now, the Cadillac dealers that got bought out, it ranged from 300,000 up to $1 million. So depending on the size of the dealership, they could have made a pretty good chunk of change there. Now, Buick, the Buick Evs are just our plans are part of the larger scale GM plan, which is about a $30 billion investment by GM into EVs by 2025. And it's expected to lead to approximately 30 new EVs from GM. And we are actually going to take a look at those EVs, and we'll go through them right now. So what we have is, the first one's going to be the Chevy Bolt Ev. I'm not sure how you guys feel about the Chevy Bolt, but I am not a big fan of the looks of it. I think it could look a lot better than that. And then we add in the Chevy Bolt Euv. That was the next thing that they came up with, and it's a lot better than the original EV. It's got a little bit better shape to it, kind of. I'm still not a big fan of it. But what we get next, we got the Hummer, and this is the Hummer truck and a Hummer SUV. I actually don't know which one we've been seeing on TV. Have we been seeing the Hummer SUV or have we been seeing the Hummer truck? I'm not exactly sure which one it is because I haven't seen I've seen a different rendering of the truck, but I don't know if that was before they came out with what's original right now that we're seeing, but that was kind of the next thing they had. And then we started seeing the Lyriq come out, which I like the looks of the Lyriq. It's a little out of my price range. I think it's a little too expensive for what it is, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's worth the $70,000. It is truly a Cadillac, especially on the inside, and that's a plus. So this one here coming up, this is I'm gonna make sure I say this right. This is the Cadillac Celestiq. So I think everybody was kind of pronouncing the Celestiq, but I think I saw on Inside EVs they were corrected, and they were told that it was Celestiq, which makes sense. If it's a Lyriq, it would be Celestiq. So we'll see how that is. But that one is, I believe they said, a $300,000 car. That's pretty crazy for a car. I just can't imagine spending that much money. And I think they're only planning to produce like 2,500 of them. I just feel like it's a waste. Why even bother? If you can't sell thousands and hundreds of thousands of these cars, what is the point in making it at all? I don't get it. I know sometimes they make prototypes and they make things like this just to see what kind of architecture that they can do and to learn from the car, but it's not usually for production for people to purchase. So That's my thoughts on that. I just don't understand the point of building something and only producing 2,500 cars, and I mean having a ridiculous price point. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So now we've got the Blazer out. So that is a really nice car. The numbers look really good. The price point's pretty good too. I think the highest one was right around 65,000. I think for the SS model. So I think we were all trying to figure out what the base model is going to be. Base model is probably going to come in around 40 to 45,000 is what my guess would be. Um, so that's a good price point, pretty much in line with everything that's going on right now. The Fisker Ocean is going to be coming out next year. That's kind of the price point on it. It starts out at 37.5, and for the Sport, and then the Ultra is at 50, and the um, Extreme and is going to be at 69,000. So there are 68,000. So it's about the same price point in there. And now this one is still kind of a concept or a rendering, I believe. So I'm not sure if this is what this is actually going to look like, but apparently it's been announced, and this is the first time I had seen it when I was looking up some information here. But this is the Chevy Camaro EV. Um, I really like the looks of it. It looks pretty cool. The front end, I've just never really been too big of a fan of the Camaro front ends by Chevy, but I do like the way the body style of this one and the lines on it look nice and crisp and clean. I would guess it's going to be in that competition with the Mustang Mach E. Um, but I they also have made a few inklings about the Corvette EV, and in one rendering they showed was it being like an SUV, kind of like how they made the Mustang Mach-E an SUV. But the Corvette is not on the same level as the Mustang Mach-E. It's kind of the Corvette is kind of above that. The Corvette is almost in that supercar range type. I wouldn't call it technically a supercar, but it's in that realm. The equivalent of Chevy's equivalent of what the Mustang would be their Camaro. So I would expect it to be similar in power and size and that type of thing. So then the next thing we're going to have is the Silverado, which I think a lot of people have seen the Silverado at car shows and stuff like that. We know that it's ready. They're probably, I think it's supposed to be coming out in the middle of next year. And I think it's got a few 100,000 reservations on it. I personally think it just looks like a avalanche. I just can't get over how much it looks like an avalanche. I don't know why they just didn't call it an avalanche. They stopped the production on the avalanches, so why not revive the name with the EV instead of trying to call it a Silverado? If you're going to make it look like an avalanche, just call it an avalanche. It does have a lot of nice features. The Ultium battery packs that they're running on it and the Hummer are going to be a phenomenal thing, and they charge super fast, which is good because most of the batteries are going to be big because they're wanting to push 400 miles of range. So you got to have a big battery pack for that when your vehicle is not going to be that have a very good drag coefficient. So I am not a big fan of it. I just don't think it's going to look that great. I am looking forward to the Ram, the EV, or the electric Ram. That is going to be pretty cool, I bet. So the last thing that we have from GM, and this has just popped up shortly after they announced the Blazer, and that is the Chevy Equinox. And that Equinox it looks a lot like the what is it, the Ford one, not the Edge. Oh, I can't think what it's called right now, but it looks really similar to it. It's kind of a smaller vehicle, so I would assume that that is going to be a similar size to what the Fisker Pear may be. It's supposed to be a smaller vehicle, so maybe it'll be similar in size. I I like the design. I think it's kind of cool. It looks pretty neat. Ford Escort. Escort is not the one that I was thinking of, but I can see where where you would say that. Um, it's the Ford I'm thinking of is the one that is the Bronco Sport is built on the same platform, and it kind of looks a lot like this now. It used to look like an SUV, and it doesn't look like that anymore. It looks something like this, and I can't think what it is called. Um, so anyway, if you guys have any comments or questions on any of these vehicles, if you want to see a picture of one of the ones that I popped up there, I can pop it right back up on there if you guys want to see it again. Otherwise, if there's not any more questions, then we're going to move on to our next thing, which is going to be some misconceptions about EVs. So looks like we're going to go ahead and move on to that. So we will switch over here. So this was a letter to the editor, and there was a question asked about EVs, and this person decided to write in and comment about how they felt about the EVs. So what they said here is, if electric vehicles are so great, why does the federal government have to essentially bribe people through tax credits to buy them? Now, most of us that know EVs know that the tax credits are not there to bribe people to buy them. It's to help people that may have a lower income be able to get into this and purchase it and be able to save money using electricity instead of gas also. So generally it was to try to help introduce these to people and then get them in a lower price point instead of them costing so much at the beginning. So this person said their number one was electric vehicles are expensive. And number two reason is they have very limited travel range. And, that's not exactly true anymore, which is why we call them misconceptions. So what happened is we had someone else wrote back in response to what their comments were. So their response to the first answer of electric vehicles are very expensive. Yeah, and well, they first commented about the tax credit issue. So what they said was tax credits are only there until the production levels are high enough that manufacturing costs drop down. And which is true. I mean, that's why they originally had a cap of 200,000 vehicles, because they were trying to keep those prices lower for the consumer while the manufacturer was ramping up production and got into a profit standpoint. And then those tax credits would go away, which, because the thought was once the tax credit went away, the manufacturer was making enough of profit that they would be able to cut the price down. Now, we know that was probably not going to happen. The manufacturer's not going to throw money away if they don't have to, so they're not going to cut those prices down unless they are required to. So then the next thing was the answer to number two, they said, was the average American drives about 35 miles a day. The range of most or the range of the most average vehicle right now is 250 miles, with some all the way up to 500 miles. That is more than enough to meet the needs of 98% of Americans. Now, I had this conversation with my wife, and I was like, I'm not sure I agree with 35 miles a day. But then she made me think, well, where we live out in the country, we live in a rural area, we live in the Midwest, so there's a lot of open area around here. So, no, most of the time when we drive back and forth to work, it may be 30 miles one way to work. It may be even more than that. Some people drive over an hour to get to work. So that's a little bit different. With but if you think about city, people that live in the city or live close to a city, they may be only going 10 or 15 miles there and 15 miles back, and maybe just using this to drive around town. So I can understand where the average for the would be 35 miles. Now for I think the majority of people would probably drive more than 35 miles, but it does meet. I would say it does meet that 98% of Americans that 250 miles would be perfectly fine, or more than enough for most people if they think about it. I mean, the problem is that people think, oh, I've got to have 500 miles or I'm going to run out of electricity somewhere. But the thing is you only use fast charging when you travel. So it's most of the time you're charging at home. So you get up every morning, you could wake up with a full 250 miles to go every day. So that's what people forget about and they don't think about. They're so worried about when they travel. Well, how often do you travel a year? Most people only travel a few times a year. And right now, I think you'll find charging a lot more places than what you actually realize they are. So the next comment that they made was, this is the next one. So the next one they said was that recharging stations are few and far between, and it seemingly takes forever to recharge the battery. So the thing is that I don't believe this person ever owned an EV. I think they're just going off of what information they've been told by other people. But the response to that was, Tesla has installed more than 35,000 charging stations. I didn't verify that number. That is just going off of what this person has said. And Electrify America has almost 3,000. I think they're way over 3,000 right now, but I'm not positive about that. But the reality is that each owner generally has a charging station at home. Most people who own an EV have a way to charge at home, whether it's a slower charger or a level 2 charger. Most people have a way to charge at home. So remote charging stations are only needed for intercity travel, or you're traveling, outside, going to some other place, like a long distance travel. I believe is what they mean, like intercity. Like if we drove to Chicago from where we're at, it would be a 200-mile trip. So you're only needing those in those instances where you are taking a trip. Also, there is no lack of charging stations when every electrical outlet in the world is potentially a charging station, which they have a point. Even if you have just a level 1 charger that came with the car, you technically can plug it in any place and you can plug it in and charge any place that you can actually get that plug in and reach it to your car. You may have to carry an extension cord around and stuff like that. So we'll see. Gary, I know there are some people that do travel a lot, and but that 250 miles generally is going to get you far enough to get you to a charger each time. So I still think that 250 miles is a good number. More would be better, and I understand that for a lot of people. And especially right now, if you're using Electrify America, they are spaced out a little bit, but most of them, I believe, they say they are in that 150 to 200 mile range apart from each other. So you should be able to make it to your next charging station. So, then the next one. Okay, so I'm going to answer this question from Keith real quick. He says, except if you live in an apartment that doesn't have access to home charging, then you definitely have to rely on super fast charging. Example of New York City. Yes, there are going to be those instances for that, but they actually have cars that are for, like, in New York City. So it would have, if you had something that had a smaller battery and you were able to use a level 2 charger to charge it, or even a DC fast charge to charge it, the smaller the battery you have, you will be able to charge it a lot faster. So it may only take you 10 or 15 minutes to charge up and get yourself 50 to 100 miles of range that you might need for the next day or following day. It is a little bit different for people who don't live in the city that don't have access to parking garages or something like that they may have chargers in there to charge foot. And if it doesn't make sense for you at that moment, I understand that. Sometimes it doesn't. Um, so then they added two more comments, which was okay. So the next one was installing a charging station in your home will cost you a miniature fortune. And the battery has a limited life and will cost another miniature fortune to replace and dispose of. Okay, so that one, a lot of us know that is not true. It doesn't really cost that much to install a charger in your home or at your home. All you have to have is a 240 outlet. And most of the time, I know in my area, if I had to run it the whole length of my house, it might cost about $300 for that plug-in. If you want it wired to your garage from your house, depending on if your house is attached, it's all about the length of how far they're running that cable and the cost of the cable. So it's not as bad as what people think it is. And this person had a pretty good price in mind. I'm not sure if they were actually taking into account the charger itself or just the wiring up a charger. So the charger itself makes a huge difference too. So if you just have one that has to plug into a NEMA 1450, it's probably going to be cheaper than if you have it hardwired in your house. If you have it hardwired, then yeah, you probably could be looking at a little bit higher price, but not a miniature fortune. Excuse me. It's not like it's going to cost them $3,000 just to put in a plug to charge your car. Generally, it's going to be less than $1,000. This person's response to that was, get my papers together here. Their response was electric vehicle batteries. I guess they didn't have that one. The electrical vehicle batteries can last for hundreds of thousands of miles, and their replacement costs are dropping dramatically. Also, annual maintenance costs for electric vehicles are a fraction of what it costs for vehicles powered by fossil fuels. The last one was about the charging station at home. They had commented a home charging station is about $700, not a miniature fortune like what the writer had said. So there you can see they were being very practical about it. Yes, $700 is probably a decent average cost depending on where you live. And then, like I said, I don't know if that's including the charger or just the wiring. But they went on to comment, if we are going to have any chance to save the planet for our children, electric vehicles will play a pivotal role in weaning us from our fossil fuel addiction. Now, that was a little harsh, but I think generally most people, there are people that are there, drive EVs and do that type of stuff for the environment. But I think there's probably at least half, and maybe even more than half, that drive EVs because it's cheaper. You factor in your cost of the car might be a little bit higher, but if you look at the price of gas versus the price it's going to cost you to charge it, you're going to offset that additional price point, and you're not having to stop at a gas station once or twice a week to get gas. You just get up in the morning and you're already full every day. So I think that's more of the benefit right now than it is about saving, the earth. I think for most people, not driving an EV because I'm trying to save the planet or anything like that. I'm actually driving mine because it is cheaper for us. We have a Volkswagen ID4. Where I live, it ranges between 9 cents and 11 cents per kilowatt. So if we even charged it from 0 to 100%, we have the 82 kilowatt hour battery, which is about 77 usable at 9 cents. Let's say even 10 cents just to make the math easy. At 10 cents per kilowatt, it would cost us $7.70 to completely fill that up from 0 to 100%. So, so it's a lot cheaper than if I wanted to go that 250 miles in the Ford Bronco Sport that we had that had got 25 miles per gallon. So that's what, 10 gallons of gas it would need to go that same 250 miles at $4 a gallon. So that's $40 to drive that 250 miles versus the $7.70 that it cost me for my EV. So that's just a little bit of thoughts for you. Let me see what we have here. Gary Hedman is getting a Pro next year. The Pro they're good cars, and I know these 23s, you're going to have a benefit because you're going to have the new software in it. We are still on the old software, which everybody talks about the ID4 software, and we have even talked about, we haven't had any major problems with it. But just today, we got up for church this morning, and we got into the car, and we didn't plug it in last night, but we had 50% left, and it said 130 miles. Not a problem. We weren't doing anything major, just going to church, coming home, and then my wife was going to go to the gym later. And so we had plenty of power, but when we came out, and this doesn't have anything to do with it because our car's been rained on a lot. But we got in the car and it had been raining, and it was funny because we just turned it on and everything was in kilometers and Celsius instead of Fahrenheit and miles. We went into the system, the general settings, and they were still set on Fahrenheit and we're still set on miles. So that stuff was all right, but the display in the center was showing, well, it was funny because I was driving and it showed the speed limit sign say 55 miles per hour. And then down underneath it, it said we had 100 and I don't know, it was like 70 some kilometers of range. It gets a little weirder when I got home. But when I looked over to the infotainment screen, and it said in the top corner had the time, and right underneath that it has the temperature, and it said 71 degrees. But then when you look down at the climate part of it, and it said 23 degrees was the climate for the car, which was actually in Celsius. So it was acting very strange. And this was the weirdest part. When I got home, I shut it off and we were getting out, and on the screen it was showing the odometer on there. And the odometer The odometer was in miles. It showed 22,000 blah 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 miles on it, and right next to it, it said the range was in kilometers. So it had both of them displayed on the screen. And so I'm completely dumbfounded about what happened or what was going on. But also, none of my travel assist stuff would work. It was all out. So I thought maybe it just had a sensor block. But yeah, so I'm not sure what the deal is right there. That was a little strange. So I just hope that it all resets. Usually that's the case. Overnight, it ends up resetting itself and everything is fine. But it may be even fine when my wife goes and gets ready to leave this afternoon. So we'll see. I'm sure she'll probably text me or something and let me know. Um, Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, you do never know what the ID software is going to do. But the 3.0 software that's coming out is supposed to be really good, and I don't know when the 3.1 software is going to be hitting. But when the 3.1 software hits, then that's going to be even better. I've seen a few people that have driven the cars that are on that ID, that 3.1, and they said it is great. It works excellent, and you have a lot of more features on the screens. So it'd be great to get that. We're still waiting for that update to the 2.4 so that we can get the 3.0 over the air update. So we have no idea when that's going to happen. Here in the U.S., we're not getting anything from Volkswagen or any information from Volkswagen at all. Okay, anybody else got any comments on all that EV misconceptions, or have you had a question that people constantly ask you that it irritates you? Um, I know there's a lot of them that people just come up, and especially when they talk about an electric truck, the biggest thing about the electric trucks are everybody wants to like, well, I heard that it cuts the towing cuts the range in half, and I'm like, okay, so you still get 100 miles, 150 miles that you can drive. Yeah, but I don't want to have to stop that early. Well, 150 miles, that's over 2 hours of driving. If you haven't stopped to go to the bathroom yet, then you have a super bladder. So that's my problem with that. Or they don't even tow. They don't even own a truck now. They don't tow anything, but they're concerned about the towing rating of the EV. I don't get it. All right. Yeah, the 3.1 route planner is good. I think that route planner is actually involved in the 3.0. It's not, it doesn't do anything in the 2.4, but that 3.0 actually has a better route planner in it. So it's a lot better. Not the brand a better route planner, but it has a better route planner than what it had previously. Okay, so we are going to move on to the Acura. If you have seen the new Acura or have any comments about the new Acura, just pop them there in the comments. And so what is, it came up, and this is originally was the precision EV concept is what it was. And they have actually named it now. This came out a couple weeks ago. I think it was at the Monterey auto thing there that they had. So they brought this out. It looks really nice. It looks pretty cool. This is rendering pictures. I actually couldn't find hardly any like clean pictures of the actual car that was at Monterey. I don't know why couldn't find them, but I was having trouble finding them. So what we got here, they actually have named it now. So it is going to be named the ZDX Type S. So it will be scheduled for production of 2024. So I would imagine here in the next few months to early spring, they're probably going to start opening up reservations for it. And we'll move on. So this one was here's a few other pictures we can add in here. It was originally in 2009. Acura had a ZDX, and this is what it looked like. So you got it for comparison. Um, and at that time, it was considered a very popular and kind of a futuristic car at that time. The design of it, it was just like crazy for 2009. So it was really popular for a little while, a little time period. But and then I think it just kind of died out, and either that or they just decided to stop producing it. I'm not sure. Maybe the company didn't like the design of it. It's hard telling. You just never know about companies and what they're going to stop showing. Um, so we'll bring up a couple more photos on this. Now, there isn't any specs right now. There's no real information on it. So we should be getting that probably later this year or possibly next year or early next spring. They are partnering with GM, so they will be using GM's Ultium platform and the Ultium batteries for this EV. Um, so this is the only real picture that I got, and like I said, I didn't think it was real clean. It was hard to see. Look, I had a pretty good glare on it. But that is really the best one there that I have. The other one is going to be this here on the side of it. So it does look a lot like the rendering. So it did come out looking that way. It's a pretty sharp car, pretty nice looking car. The interior was on the concept was a little I know it's not going to look like that, so I didn't even bother like showing a picture of it because the steering wheel had like a half of a steering wheel, or it was like a miniature yoke. It was really weird looking. I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I know that, so I just didn't even bother bringing that on. So what do you guys think about the looks of this Acura? Is it something that you would consider? Like I said, we don't know anything. We don't know the price points. We don't know power or anything yet. I think it's something to consider. I like that blue. That blue color is pretty cool. So we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, I don't know. It looks like a nice car. I have trouble with the front end. I think the front end is just a little too pointed to me. It makes sense aerodynamically, but aesthetic looks wise, I'm not sure that I like it as much. Let's see if we got any questions over here. Yep, no questions on that or any what you guys think. So, yeah, I know it depends on the price, Gary. I will be in an Acura. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be in that 60,000 range. Would be my guess. Okay, so the Sono Scion. Has anybody heard about the Sono Scion? Ever seen any pictures of it? Anything like that? Let me know over there in the chat, and we're going to move on and talk about it. So here we go. This is the Sono Scion. So Sono Motors has reached 20,000 reservations for this Sono Scion. It combines a 47 kilowatt battery with solar panels, and I'll show you a closer up picture of that. But the body of it and all the panels have solar in them, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool to see that you really can't see it unless you get it in direct sunlight, and then you can see the panels. So it combines that 47 kilowatt battery with the solar panels to give it an estimated range of 161 miles. So I would have thought, even with a 47 kilowatt hour battery, which is a small battery, I still would have thought you would have got more than 161 miles out of it, even with the solar. The solar panels, they say, can generate up to 21 miles per day under peak conditions. Um, so I I don't think they probably have really done as much as they probably could with this, because if you look at the Aptera, the Aptera is has a 25 kilowatt hour battery in it. And now this is efficiency. It is an extremely efficient vehicle. But that 25 kilowatt hour battery gets 250 miles. Now, the solar panels, though, on that Aptera, they actually can pull in up to 40 miles of range per day. And that is, twice what this Scion is doing, and it looks like it would probably have more body panels to put the solar on, or have more solar panels in the car. So I don't understand why they are not being able to produce as much as what the Aptera is able to do. So yeah, so I'm not real sure what is going on there. I sure think that it should be a lot more than that. So here is a close up of the body panels. So you can actually see those solar panels all along the doors, and the quarter panels have it in it. And I do believe the hood has some in it, and I think the roof also. So I don't really understand why they're not pulling more power than that. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's just their technology. Maybe they need to talk to Aptera about their solar panels that they use. So then the other thing is this interior. It's pretty basic, pretty plain, but if you see that yellow greenish stuff at the bottom of the front dash, that is a clear piece of plastic that goes across there, and there is actual live moss growing inside of it. Yeah, yeah, Mike. Yeah, it's moss. It's actually moss growing in there, and what they say that moss is basically an air filtration system. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot about moss. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. It's just a little weird. I don't know. I mean, what happens if the moss dies? Or what if the moss turns red instead of being green? I don't know if there's a difference between red and green moss, or if it just turns one way when it gets bad, or what happens. I don't know. Do you have to have the moss replaced every time you go in to get it serviced? Do they like open it up and water it? I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it. But I didn't look into it either. I'm just not sure about having moss growing inside my car. The other thing is I'm not a real big fan of the style of the car. It kind of looks like a squared off hatchback. It just doesn't look that aerodynamic. It's all square. It's just not real appealing to me. A lot of times I'm not as concerned about the aerodynamics of it as the look. And this look does not impress me. Okay. Yeah, so I'm saying, that's what I was saying, Mike. I don't know about the moss in the dash. I don't know what I would do with that. Okay, so the next thing, we're going to move on to CATL, or CATL, and this is going to be interesting. So CATL has announced, see if I can get my notes here. So CATL has announced that they have the battery pack now that promises. Now it says, look at it. It says their I don't know if you pronounce that Qilin or Killin, but battery pack promises 621 miles of range for EVs. Now, promises, that word is probably not a very good chosen word, because promises I don't see how you could promise that it's going to get 621 miles in a squared off front end. I mean, it just really depends on the drag coefficient of the car. We all know the drag coefficient is what matters in your range. So if they're promising 621 miles, that means any EV at all, no matter how it's shaped or looks. I think that's not probably a good choice of words there. But if you look at the bottom right underneath this, it says it beats the 4680 cell innovation that Elon Musk talks about. So that 4680 cells that they were talking about putting in the Teslas, this, I guess you'd want to say, kills it, or it's killing it. I don't know. I don't know how that pronounces that. But yeah. So I think I think they were making sure that they were putting out a hit there towards Tesla on that one. So what we have is, I'm going to take that down. I'm going to bring you a picture of, now these batteries, what they say is that they will charge from 10% to 80% in 10 minutes. And then they have this, you can hot start it in 5 minutes. So I'm guessing, I don't know, you charge it in the 10 minutes, but the battery's like really hot. So you have to wait like 5 minutes before you can actually start it, I'm guessing. I guess that's what they mean. I've never really looked at that. But, that's pretty cool. 10 minutes and 10 minutes and at 80%. So let's say it was 500 miles, 550 miles of range, somewhere in that range. In 10 minutes, that will definitely work and will shut up some of the gas people that are complaining about not getting an EV because they can gas their car up in 5 minutes or less. So this will be a 10-minute charge. The other thing that I got another picture for you guys here, and there is that one. So this is comparing it to that 4680 battery cell. And they say that they have a 72% efficiency versus the 4680s at 63%. So they're just really beating down on that Tesla battery that they're wanting to use. I don't know what the cost is going to be. It's going to be pretty crazy, I would think. But you just never know. I mean, maybe this is easier to make than the other batteries. Just because it's got more range or is a bigger battery or more efficient thing doesn't always mean that it costs more to make it. We have, and what they also said is that 621 miles that they're claiming, that was done on the Chinese testing. So we are going to actually say that the EPA numbers are probably going to be more in the range of around 500 miles. So then it's just going to depend on your efficiency, because if you look at the Lucid Air and the drag coefficient on it, they're getting 500 miles or over 500 miles on certain batteries. So, and they're not using this Qilin Battery. I still can't figure out how to say that. So that doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, it's great and everything, but apparently Lucid's already figured out how to get 500 miles. And then the last thing about this is that this battery will be used in all upcoming Zeekr models. I don't know a whole lot about Zeekr. I've only heard the name one time before this, and I never really checked into it because I was just figured it was, some new startup that really hasn't made a prominent announcement yet. But it says all upcoming Zeekr models will have this battery in it, and starting with the Zeekr 009 model that starts in 2023. And so I wanted to see what this was and thought you guys might want to see what it looked like. And here it is. This is the Zeekr 009. Is that a minivan? I mean, it kind of looks like a minivan to me. So that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a minivan. No, and if you look at that front end, I don't know how that is going to be very efficient or how they're going to promise those miles that they're saying they're going to get. That looks like a brick in the front, just wind just pounding against the front of it, not pushing it, not going anywhere. Yeah, Mike said the batteries being a blade style should make sub-pack level repairs easy as well. True. I think that is something that might be a lot easier to work with and work on. I really like the idea of what Neo's doing with the battery change stations. Now, I really don't see that happening here in the U.S. I just can't imagine that they're going to all of a sudden decide, well, maybe we'll just stop the charging infrastructure now where we're at, and we'll start doing these battery swap replacements and get those things built. And you can use the chargers in the meantime, but this is the way we're going to go. I just don't see that happening. I don't see all the manufacturers switching over to these battery replacement things. And then in the U.S., if they do bring Neo here, Neo's not going to be able to put enough of those battery stations in to make it worthwhile. So I don't think that's a very good idea. So maybe these blade style packs might make it easier where they can just reach in, pull that piece out, stick a new one in. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know how all that stuff works. But it does seem like it's a pretty cool thing. So that is all the news that I have for you guys for this week, but we're not going to stop here. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything, you want to talk about anything in the chat, I'm up for talking about anything. It doesn't really matter. So I talk about the Ford Lightning. We can talk about the Fisker Ocean. We can talk about any of those vehicles that we saw earlier. The Aptera. Let me think. What else have we covered? Just covered something else. What was that? The Aptera. Oh, I'm getting ready to work on a video about Magna International. We're going to be doing a video combining them and Fisker. Now, we don't know what parts and components and everything that the Fisker Ocean is using in it, but we know Magna is building it, and it's got a lot of Magna parts in it. So we're going to do a video about Magna and what kind of technology that they have and what they're working on. Might give us a little bit of insight of what might be in the Fisker Ocean. So that's a video that I'm going to be working on. The Benz EQB 300. So Mike says he looked at the Benz EQB 300 yesterday, and it was quite impressive, especially starting in the mid 50,000 price point. Well, that is pretty good. Mid 50s for a Mercedes. That's a really good price. I haven't watched the video on that. I saw that had popped up, but I haven't really checked it out much. But most of those Mercedes have looked nice that I remember looking at. And Mercedes is going to build quality cars, so I wouldn't worry about any quality issues there. The biggest thing is you're looking at range, which being EQB 300, I'm guessing that it's probably a 2 to 250 mile range, I'm guessing. I don't know for sure on that one. And I know that I think they do have different size batteries. I think they have a plus, or they have like a 350 or a 400 and a 450. It just, that's how they kind of differentiate between their small batteries and their large batteries. But they're pretty cool. I just did a video on the Volkswagen ID4 and the modifications and accessories that we have purchased and put on it. So you can always go check that out. So Mike says a range 230 to 240, 10 to 80% charge is 31 minutes that's on the Mercedes-Benz EQB 300. So I was pretty close on the miles guess. It's I when I first saw those numbers, I always thought, well, it says 300, so that's probably the 300-mile range. But then every time I looked at it, I was like, no, it's like 50 miles under that number about every time. So I was pretty close there. That's pretty cool. That's all that I really have for you guys today. And like I said, unless there's something you guys want to talk about, or you got something you want me to try to find, if there's a picture or something you want me to see. Other than that, we're probably going to wrap it up here pretty shortly. So I talked about right at the beginning of the broadcast. If you are new here or you come watch this video for the first time, you can go to OSR Garage, subscribe if you like the content. If not, check out the videos anyway, and we're glad that you came and you actually watched this video. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed being here, enjoyed watching it. We also just opened up memberships, so you can go check out the membership on that. Should be down below. There should be a join button next to my name, or next to OSR Garage, and the subscriber should be a little join button there. You can go check that out, see if there's anything, if you'd be interested in that. There's 3 levels, and we have a members only chat. There is at the member only chat, you'll find out information before everyone else. I will let you guys know what I'm planning and what I'm working on. You guys will also have some insight, some word and some say or suggestions for videos or stuff that you guys would like to see. That's where you can let me know that there. You'll also get to see the videos before anyone else on the platform. So I'll post those in that membership community, and you'll get to watch those about a day before they actually go live on YouTube. So that's a plus. And then if you get the 3rd tier, you get all of that stuff, and you also can get up to $25 in merchandise from the merchandise stores. So you can go check that out. And all the proceeds, all the money coming from that will also go back into the channel to provide, software and video equipment and that type of stuff, so that I can make better content and better things for you guys. Better equipment makes it all look better. So that's all that I've got for you guys. I'm glad you guys were all here. Thanks for chatting with me today, and I will see you next week. Have a great